Do you ever feel like your hips just don't want to cooperate anymore? Most people over 60 think a daily walk will fix weak glutes, but the science tells a different story. Your glutes could be dying while you sit, and that silent shutdown is why you feel that flat butt frustration and the occasional wobble when you stand up. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes, and I'll show you a single seated move that reactivates those muscles better than any stroll. I'm Dr. Anna Martinez, a physiotherapist with 20 years of experience helping seniors regain strength and confidence. Let's talk about why the glutes weaken after 60. Age brings a natural decline in hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, which reduces the body's ability to maintain muscle mass. Add to that a sedentary lifestyle, hours upon hours in a chair, and you get what researchers call glute L inhibition. In plain terms, sitting tells your glutes to shut down and they obey. Walking is wonderful for cardiovascular health, but it primarily fires the calves and hamstrings. Studies show that a typical walk activates only about 30% of the gluteus maximus, leaving the majority of that powerful muscle underused. That's why many seniors still experience lower back pain, knee instability, and a sagging posture despite clocking many miles on the pavement. In this video, you'll learn the anatomy behind the issue, the science of the solution, and a step-by-step routine you can do right now, right from your chair. If you've ever felt that flat butt frustration, give this video a thumbs up now. It tells me you're ready to act. Let's dive into what's really happening behind the scenes. First, the glute group is made up of three muscles: the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, and the gluteus minimus. These three are the engine of every step you take. When they're strong, you walk taller, you protect your lower back, and you reduce the risk of falls. When they're weak, your pelvis tilts forward, your lumbar spine compensates, and you end up with chronic low back pain. Why do they atrophy after 60? Hormonal decline is one factor, but the bigger culprit is neuromuscular dropout. Your brain sends fewer signals to the motor units that control the glutes, a phenomenon known as motor unit dropout. Combine that with prolonged sitting, 6 hours or more a day, and you create a perfect storm of gluteal inhibition. Your muscles literally turn off because they're not being asked to work. The hidden risk of weak glutes goes beyond a flat appearance. Poor glute activation means less support for the lumbar spine, leading to chronic low back pain for many seniors. It also causes the knees to collapse inward, a condition called knee valgus, which accelerates osteoarthritis. In fact, strengthening the glutes can reduce back pain episodes by up to 40%, according to recent clinical trials. Now that we understand why the glutes betray us, let's explore how a simple seated move can revive them. The exercise I'm about to demonstrate is called the seated hip thrust, sometimes referred to as the chair glute bridge. It's a low impact, high activation movement that you can perform in any sturdy chair. Step 1, position yourself on a chair with a straight back, feet flat on the floor, knees bent at 90 degrees. Your hips should be level with your knees and your spine neutral. Step 2, press through your heels, engage the glutes, and lift your pelvis a few inches off the seat. Feel the contraction in the backside of your thighs. Step 3, hold that lift for 3 seconds, maintaining a firm glute squeeze. Step 4, lower your hips slowly, keeping the tension alive. Step 5, aim for 10 repetitions, then rest for 30 seconds and repeat for 3 sets. Why does this work better than walking? When you thrust upward from a seated position, you force the glutes into a hip extension movement that mimics the powerful push-off phase of a stride, but without the impact on the knees. Electromyography studies show that the seated hip thrust can achieve up to 80% activation of the gluteus maximus, far surpassing the activation levels seen during a brisk walk. Give it a try now. Sit down, place your hands on your thighs for feedback, and perform the first lift. Notice how the muscles fire, how the lower back stays stable, and how you feel a surge of power in the hips. That sensation is the glutes waking up from a long nap. If this is opening your eyes to a new way of staying strong, hit that subscribe button and let's keep exploring together. What do you think about the role of sitting in muscle loss? Share your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear your perspective. And if this quick demonstration resonated with you, smash that like button. It lets me know we're on the right track. Remember, the key to reversing gluteal atrophy isn't more walking, it's targeted activation. By incorporating the seated hip thrust into your daily routine, you give your glutes the stimulus they need to rebuild strength, improve balance, and protect your spine. In the next part of this series, we'll discuss how to progress this movement, add resistance, and integrate it with other functional exercises for a comprehensive senior fitness plan. Stay tuned because the journey to stronger hips has just begun. Now that you have felt the first spark of activation, let us explore how to turn that spark into a steady flame that will keep your glutes strong day after day. The key to lasting change lies in progression, in adding just enough challenge to keep the muscles guessing, and in weaving the movement into a broader routine that supports balance, joint health, and overall vitality. First, consider the principle of overload. Your glutes responded to the initial lift because the movement placed them under a new demand. If you continue to perform the same 10 repetitions without variation, the adaptation will plateau. To avoid that, gradually increase either the volume, the intensity, or the complexity of the exercise. One simple way to raise the intensity is to add resistance. A light resistance band looped just above the knees creates lateral tension that forces the gluteus medius to work harder during the thrust. For those who feel comfortable, a small dumbbell or a sandbag placed across the hips adds a downward load that the glutes must overcome to lift the pelvis. When you first introduce a band, aim for a band that offers a gentle pull, enough to be felt but not so tight that it compromises form. If the band feels too slack, you can double it or step a little wider to increase tension. Next, think about the tempo of each repetition. The original demonstration used a 3-second hold at the top of the lift. You can experiment with longer holds, perhaps 4 or 5 seconds, to deepen the isometric contraction. Alternatively, you can slow the eccentric phase, lowering the pelvis over a count of 3 to 4 seconds, which emphasizes control and recruits stabilizing fibers that are often overlooked. A deliberate controlled tempo also protects the lower back, ensuring that the movement remains hip dominant rather than shifting the load onto the lumbar spine. Beyond the seated hip thrust, there are complementary movements that reinforce the same neuromuscular pathways while adding variety. One such exercise is the seated marching drill. Sit tall, feet flat, and lift one knee toward the chest while maintaining a firm glute squeeze on the opposite side. Alternate legs in a slow, deliberate rhythm, keeping the pelvis stable. This drill challenges the gluteus medius and minimus, which are essential for lateral stability and preventing hip drop during daily activities such as climbing stairs. Another valuable addition is the seated single leg extension. From the same chair position, extend one leg straight out, hold for a moment, and then lower it with control. The extension engages the hamstrings and gluteus maximus in a slightly different pattern, promoting balanced development across the posterior chain. Perform this on each side, aiming for 8 to 12 repetitions per leg, and notice how the muscles fire differently when the weight is supported by only one limb. Now let's address frequency. For most seniors, consistency outweighs intensity. Aim to perform the seated hip thrust and its companion drills at least 3 times per week, allowing a day of rest between sessions for recovery. On rest days, gentle mobility work, such as seated hip circles or ankle pumps, keeps blood flowing and maintains joint range without taxing the muscles. If you feel particularly energized, you can add a short session on an off day, but listen closely to your body's signals. A mild soreness that dissipates within 24 hours is normal. Sharp pain or lingering stiffness is a cue to scale back. Safety remains paramount. Before each session, ensure your chair is stable with a solid backrest that does not wobble. The seat should be firm. A cushion that is too soft can compromise the force transfer from your heels through the glutes. Keep your feet firmly planted on the ground, hip width apart, and distribute weight evenly across both heels. If you have any history of knee or hip pain, start with a reduced range of motion, perhaps lifting only an inch off the seat before progressing to the full 3-inch lift. Should any discomfort arise in the lower back, double check that your spine remains neutral throughout the movement. A slight arch can indicate that the hamstrings are taking over, reducing glute activation. Let's anticipate some common questions that often arise when seniors begin this routine. One frequent query is whether the seated hip thrust can replace traditional standing squats. The answer is nuanced. While the seated version delivers superior glute activation for those who cannot safely perform a full squat, it does not replicate the full kinetic chain demands of a standing squat, which also involves ankle dorsiflexion and core stabilization. Ideally, as strength and confidence improve, you can transition to a partial squat, perhaps a box squat with a chair as a guide, gradually building toward a full squat over months. The seated thrust, however, remains an invaluable foundation that protects the knees and lower back while you develop the necessary strength. Another common concern revolves around the use of resistance bands. Some viewers wonder whether a band that is too tight might cause hip adduction, pulling the knees inward and creating misalignment. To avoid this, keep the band just above the knees and focus on pushing the knees outward against the band's resistance, engaging the outer glutes. If you notice the knees collapsing inward, either reduce the band's tension or widen your stance slightly until you can maintain proper alignment throughout the lift. A third question often surfaces: how long will it take to notice a difference? The timeline varies based on individual factors such as baseline activity level, nutrition, and sleep quality. Many people report a perceptible increase in hip stability after 2 to 3 weeks of consistent practice, especially when they incorporate the progressive overload strategies we discussed. Visible changes in muscle tone may take a bit longer, typically 6 to 8 weeks, so patience and persistence are essential companions on this journey. Nutrition also plays a subtle yet powerful role in muscle regeneration. Ensure you are consuming adequate protein throughout the day, aiming for a serving of lean protein at each meal. Sources such as fish, poultry, legumes, and dairy provide the essential amino acids needed for muscle repair. Pairing protein with a modest amount of healthy fat, think olive oil or avocado, can further support the anabolic environment. Hydration is equally important. Dehydrate muscles are less responsive to activation, so keep a water bottle within reach during your sessions. Now let's weave all these elements into a sample weekly plan that you can adapt to your own schedule. On Monday, begin with a warm-up of seated torso twists and shoulder rolls for 5 minutes. Then perform 3 sets of 10 seated hip thrusts, followed by 8 repetitions of the seated single leg extension on each side, and finish with 10 repetitions of the seated marching drill. On Wednesday, repeat the hip thrust, this time adding a light resistance band around the knees and extending the hold at the top to 4 seconds. Conclude the session with a brief stretch. Sit tall, cross one ankle over the opposite knee, and gently press the raised knee downward to open the hip. Thursday can be a mobility-focused day, featuring hip circles, ankle pumps, and gentle seated cat-cow movements for 10 minutes, allowing the glutes to recover while maintaining joint flexibility. On Friday, return to the hip thrust routine, this time incorporating a small sandbag across the hips for added load, and increase the number of repetitions to 12 per set. End the week with a cool down walk around the house or garden, keeping the pace leisurely to promote circulation without overtaxing the newly activated muscles. As you become comfortable with this structure, feel free to experiment with variations. For example, you can perform the hip thrust while holding a brief pause at the bottom of the movement just before the lift to emphasize eccentric control. Or you can integrate a double pulse technique where after the initial lift, you add a quick small dip and rise before fully lowering, creating 2 rapid activations within a single repetition. These micro variations keep the neuromuscular system engaged and can further enhance strength gains. Remember, the ultimate goal isn't simply a firmer backside, it's to restore the functional capacity that allows you to stand, walk, climb stairs, and enjoy everyday activities without fear of falling. Strong glutes act as a natural brace for the lumbar spine, reducing the load on the lower back and diminishing the risk of chronic pain. They also stabilize the pelvis, which improves gait symmetry and reduces compensatory patterns that can lead to knee wear. In short, a well-conditioned posterior chain is a cornerstone of healthy aging. Before we close, I'd like to invite you to reflect on the progress you've made in this very moment. You have taken the first step, literally by lifting your hips off a chair, and you have glimpsed the potential of targeted muscle activation. The next step is to embed this practice into your daily rhythm, to respect the cues of your body, and to celebrate each small victory, whether it's an extra second of hold, a deeper lift, or simply the confidence that comes from feeling stronger. If any part of today's lesson resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. Share which variation you're most excited to try, or tell me about any challenges you've encountered so far. Your experiences help shape future videos and create a community of seniors who support each other on the path to better health. If you found this information useful, consider giving the video a like. That simple gesture tells the algorithm that this content is valuable and helps more people discover these strategies. And if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you won't miss the upcoming episodes where we will dive deeper into progressive resistance, explore balance enhancing drills, and introduce low-impact cardio options that complement the glute work. In closing, remember that age is not a barrier to muscular resilience. It is simply a variable that can be managed with smart science-backed practices. Your glutes have the capacity to awaken, to grow, and to support you for years to come. Keep the movement alive, stay curious, and trust the process. The journey to stronger hips has only just begun, and every lift you make brings you one step closer to a more vibrant, stable, and confident you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll unlock the next chapter of senior fitness together.